talk about these stories with you individually based on what your projects are about. They're all kind of, you can look at them, these stories as kind of lights that you could shine on your concepts, on your projects. The story about the cathedral and the bazaar is talking from two architectural metaphors, the cathedral and the bazaar. I mean, you can think of the cathedral as a kind of a production paradigm, a way of doing things, a way of looking at things. Essentially, you don't ship something that is half finished, that is buggy, that has all kinds of things that are wrong with it or not even thought out properly. And the bazaar model is the model where indeed that you release early and often, for example. You get other people to do as much of the work as possible, and you're basically together building something.
Je moet zich voorstellen een groep cavia's die in een vreemde omgeving voor hen zitten, een kantoortuin. En ze hebben een probleem, want hun leider is weg. Dus heel snel ontstaat er een soort chaos. Om die chaos te bestrijden hebben ze bedacht dat ze een soort cavia-database gaan aanleggen met allemaal dagboekjes erin waarin ze opschrijven van wat ze meemaken, wat hun gevoelens en verlangens zijn. En die spulletjes, dat zijn eigenlijk een soort icoontjes voor de herinneringen die cavia's hebben. Dus die staan voor die herinneringen. En de gebruiker die moet dan bepaalde spulletjes van die cavia in zijn eigen geheugenmandje stoppen. En je wordt dus eigenlijk als internetbezoeker aangespoord om dezelfde tekortkomingen te ontwikkelen als dat die cavia's hebben. Want je moet een beetje deel gaan uitmaken van die cavia-wereld. De televisieserie zelf gebruiken we voornamelijk om de karakters verder uit te diepen.
So I wanted to address three main questions here that I hope would lead to other questions. One is, what kinds of distinctive pleasures are made available by the internet and by CD-ROMs? Secondly, how are they similar to or different from spectatorial pleasures that you find in prior media, such as movies, television, and theater? And finally, even if we decide that they are different, how can we make use of the previous discourses about spectatorial pleasures? What can you learn from those earlier discourses? And the question becomes, how any new medium gives you new means of achieving. Because it's in the home, it means that it's the means of introducing children to narrative. And by introducing children to narrative, it means it becomes a means of mapping the world and your own position in it. So it sets up, you could say, the basic schemata, the basic category through which you organize all the different perceptions that you have of the world. That's an incredibly potent force.
Our project is called IRA, Research on Television and Internet, and it is about telling a story. We want to tell a story using both television and internet. On television, you have weekly episodes, 8 weekly episodes of 25 minutes, and in these episodes you see what is happening, you see the search, and the story slowly unfolds. But the narrative that you see on television is full of gaps. And these gaps we fill in on the internet. So on the internet you have a lot of extra content, a lot of extra pieces of the story, but these are not on one internet site. They are distributed all over the internet. So as a viewer, after you've watched a television episode, you go onto the internet and start looking, searching for pieces of content that will help you understand the story and help you understand the episode that's going to be on next week.
this is sort of the space where you see the table, where you see the story. If you want to, wherever you're reading, it sort of looks like a hypertext a little bit, quite a bit. And then there are some images that may be associated with the story, but not directly, more with what the metaphors that appear in the story. And we call it the Crossroads Interface, where each one, what happens is that each one of these lines is a fragment from a story. The stories are interviews.
Week 1 is the week surrounding the millennium. It deals with the project itself. It deals with the personal resolutions that everyone makes at landmark occasions, such as New Year or marriage or whatever.
Well, from all these resolutions, 6 are chosen, and from these 6 resolutions or persons, of each of them will be made a documentary film about 8 or 10 minutes. Together they will make a film of 60 minutes. The 6 documentaries will have different styles and feel because they are from different cultures and made by different filmmakers. On a thematic level they will be the same on resolutions, voornemens.
So behind the scenes, the filmmakers will collaborate over the internet. They will use a special tool which also has this, which you can see the interface right now. It has the same time-based relationships that everybody's working towards the same deadline, and you can see from all the 6 different teams at what point they are and what they're working on. Okay, after the documentary is broadcasted, the website will be a monument. It will change into a monument reflecting on the personal changes surrounding the millennium.
The bottom line is, if you start, you might have the greatest idea in the world, and a lot of these ideas are really, great ideas. But if you don't present it in a way that people understand it, you become what we call in English an attractive nuisance. In other words, you're really attractive because you've got a great idea, but you're obviously going to be a tremendous amount of work because you don't obviously have the first clue about how to put your project together. At least that's how you give people the impression if they look at a document that's not very clear or a demo that's not very clear. Because one of the things that we always know in life is that when you go and you pitch a project to somebody, you never pitch it to the person who says yes. That's the problem in life. You always pitch it to the person who takes it to the person who says yes. So you're never in the room with the person who says yes, but you have this 3-page document that's in the room for you. And this is a nice little intro page to your thing. And literally, as you kind of figure out and flesh out what it is, you write this one first, this one second, and then really this whole thing is, in a way, the explanation of this thing right here. So it's a really great way to organize yourself from the very beginning. And as you're trying to get people interested and involved in your project, if it's a programmer, for example, or an interface artist or something, they're going to want to know where your head is. And this is the quickest way to do it. It's going to show that you're professional, that you've thought the thing out, that you're serious, that you really know what it's for. And if we only accomplish one thing this week, if we only accomplish something that's really, really coherent with maybe a couple of screens or something, believe it or not, that's an unbelievable amount, because it'll make the rest of it, I'll show you, trust me, it'll make the rest of it fall together very, very fast because you've already gone through this process.
Well, my concept was the Internet Doggy. This is the doggy, the iDoggy I call it. It's a toy that you can plug into the computer. Then you can move it, and in the same way you move it in your hand, you can see it moving on the screen. You can have a CD-ROM with it, with basic assets on the CD-ROM, and you can add new possibilities to the world. via the internet. You can download it from the internet. So you can move through the world and be part of a certain story. And then we come to the role of the TV. What can TV do with it? They can create a world for the Internet Doggy. You can go and take a walk with the doggy and pass certain items in the world, certain events you can do, little adventures, and together those adventures will form a story. Every week the TV station could add a program in the form of an item in the world, and altogether the story will develop.
Today I'm going to talk now about two things. One is finishing up yesterday's conversation on narrative and story and internet and delivery and databasing and all those good things, and also talk about new forms of interactive television, internet hybrids. So to finish off yesterday though, this is the project Thaw that was written by Doug Gaten and directed and produced by myself and Douglas. Basically, you would go to the site, and as you walked around, it would tell the server where you were, and we then were able to create a way to build a geographic map of an internet site from a top-down view and call users positions, and as they walk around the web, as opposed to a traditional hierarchical branch structure, right, which we usually see in web pages. You usually see, click here and you go here, click here, you go here. We created a map-oriented structure.
Technology is really going to change the way news and information is delivered.
There's a television show right here, right? And then interactive web pages here, okay? Now, when the television show was going, you basically were faced to have this as your web page then. People were trying to figure out how to program, and people who I know and we worked with, they all said, how do we program in the L? They were trying to make all of these like buzzwords about what, programming in the L, because it was all about the L, or programming in the T or whatnot, and I was like, how about programming in the Z, and we cut the video so it's like that, but they didn't go for that. Everyone was like, someone coined the L prior to me, so it was difficult for me to change that.
This concept is an experiment to see and to watch what happens in a small community, which becomes a public domain. We create a small space, a small surrounding, a small environment, and place it in the real world. This microcosmos is being created, is being watched at, and is being driven by his main characters, by the audience, and by the visitors. The TV program is a sort of docu-soap, as we call it. It's not an ordinary soap, but it's an attractive series which goes about real people in real situations. So the house and the cafe are 24 hours a day being visited by the internet. The cafe is totally wired, and people can read in diaries, but we can even look in the cash register. Because of that, the watchers become a companion, and they will interfere in the life of the main characters. The watchers become also the players on the internet. On the website, they can see in the cafe. They can communicate with the main characters and also with the other viewers, watchers. Around the cafe is standing up a sort of community.
Okay. It's called the Perno movie constructor. It consists of 3 parts, basically. You got a constructor online, you got a viewer. In the constructor you can create your own Perno movie. There's a viewer where you can view movies that other people made. And then there's a TV show where the best movie of the week is going to be broadcasted in PAL resolution and with original sound score. This is the constructor. It's a tool it's a part of the internet site in which you can get access to our database, and it's a very easy way to make an animation. It is made so that people that don't have any experience with let's say, graphics software or animation software can still make an animation. Then you add it to the archive, which is the other part of the internet site. It's a huge archive of all the movies that people made. During, let's say, a week, some of the nicest stories will float up because that's the audience's taste. And we will be watching this, and we will pick out one of the movies, or a couple of them, and make a final hoochie coochie remix. And what we do is we maybe fine-tune it a little bit. We make it suitable for television. That's basically it. And that means that we are adding a sound score, extensive sound score, with the original actors that are also in the Purno series.
We call it a broad box. We don't use it in sync with the TV program. We use it just before the program or after, so that's slightly different. So what we do here, we invite people in the TV show to go to a certain URL. So what will happen, you go to this screen, go to this website, log in as a user, so here is probably his name, ask one question to this toekomstmark, exactly with this picture, Rude Boy, the urban dance squad, being here at this in the field sort of studio, and this is our moderator, so you can see really do-it-yourself internet media. First, because we didn't want to make a documentary first and a website later, we tried to develop sort of a research tool to break up the documentary in small documentary pieces which we loaded into a database. The most important documentary objects are the ones that totally structure your idea about this issue. That is what the domains are, the places where, or you could, when you add up all domains, you would have like an image of the entire society. So this domain could be the economic world or education.
Good evening. My name is Christian Skina, and I'm going to introduce you to a project involved in two media, the net and the television, in order to create a place for the heart for the Kurdish diaspora. It will also allow a cultural and conceptual comparative experience. Since Kurdistan was fragmented by the neighboring countries, its inhabitants very often had to flee for their life. They traveled long distances and finally found a place where they could live in peace. But they continuously had a longing for preserving and evolving their culture, for keeping in contact with each other. I was thinking of creating a virtual Kurdistan which can offer this peace for these people to create this cultural deposit, if you want. What you are seeing here is just a proposal for a start for this project. Hopefully, because the project we are offering an elastic structure, after a while will be transformed entirely by the Kurds, and the tools that we are offered and were designed by a Western mentality will be transformed to help their needs.